You're listening to Two Girls, One Crossword.
Well, since we last recorded, we've seen two Broadway, I don't know, touring Broadway shows.
Yes.
Two very different ones, some may say.
Broadway in Chicago.
Cats versus Les Mis.
Who will win? Two entirely different shows. But I feel like
they're both amazing in a different way.
Yeah, like I thought it was funny. Matt had never been to like a Broadway show before.
What a week for him.
Yeah, I took him to Les Mis, and it's like a 3-hour saga, really emotional. Like everyone in the audience, like whenever it's silent, you can just hear from everyone in the audience. It was that good. And then like less than a week later, we're in the seats at Cats, the musical. And let's just say it's not like Les Mis. If you know anything about us, you know we like Cats.
The more I watch the play, this is like my second time saying it, I'm like, Cats is amazing. I mean, truly, like, just the fact that it's really just a play about cats, like, introducing themselves and different personality of cats, like, not much more behind that, but then they randomly throw in Memory in there, like one of the most heartbreaking songs, potentially the most popular Broadway song to make it into mainstream. Like,
yes,
Barbra Streisand's cover of Memory was in the top 10, when it came out of the Billboard charts. And the song is beautiful, but it's like so random.
I'm getting chills thinking about her version, but it is incredibly random in the
rest of the play. But the dancing is so good. I don't know. I love them both. And I said it before and I'll say it again. Rum Tum Tugger could play Marius, but Marius could not play Rum Tum Tugger. Okay? And I'll end it at that.
Oh, if you know, you know. If you don't know, go see your local performances of Les Mis and Cats so that you understand.
Need to watch like a good play that's a little less serious, I think. You gotta see like a Hairspray type Evan Hansen Into the Woods thing. Because you're on like two ends of the spectrum. You gotta meet somewhere in the middle.
That's true. I feel like one of my other fave plays is Once. I loved that one. I loved Cinderella, the Roger Hammerstein Cinderella.
Bad Cinderella, the new Andrew Lloyd Webber one that I keep talking about that no one knows the
We have to go. Behind. Is it like a movie or is it like an actual play?
It's a play. It opened on the West End and now it's opening on Broadway, but
so what do you do in the summer? You want to fly to London and see Bad Cinderella?
No, it's not there anymore. It's only in New York now. Although, I don't know, it has mixed reviews, I'll say that.
Oh, God. I love Andrew Lloyd Webber's TikTok. It's very strange. And I swore I saw Andrew Lloyd Webber at our performance of Cats, but nobody believed me.
Yeah,
I pointed it out.
For some reason, I don't think he would be sitting on the balcony.
Oh, God.
Well, anyways, this isn't a Broadway podcast. It's actually Two Girls, One Crossword. I'm Grace Topinka.
I'm Chelsea Rowan. This is your favorite weekly Podword Crosscast coming to you live. Well, not live at all. It's live for us.
Yeah.
So,
that means
nothing. I guess it means nothing. It counts for nothing. Thanks for tuning in yet again. Another week has passed. Another week of Learned League. I must say that I am enjoying the trivia.
Continuously humbled. There's definitely times where I got like nothing right.
Yeah, same.
This last week.
Oh, yesterday's in particular, I'm at least like confident about one answer and like semi-confident about a second answer. I'm like, I think I can pull this one off. Usually I only get the one right. But I didn't know a single GD answer to the questions yesterday. And I was like, this is humbling.
I'm telling you, it's the all the Broadway ones are literally the only ones saving me right now.
They usually help me too, but I got the Broadway one wrong yesterday. I was so bad.
There's a lot of Broadway ones, weirdly.
There is, yeah.
Don't you agree?
I agree. But yeah, I think what we're learning here is that we do like learning new things. One of the things I'm liking about Learned League is that I'm getting fast, fun facts. Let's see if I retain them, but I am getting some. And I feel like my knowledge is getting a little bit more well-rounded. So something that I'm like, oh, I think it's this. And then I get the answer. I'm like, oh, okay. And like, I feel like the gaps in my knowledge are kind of filling out a little bit, which is fun.
I don't know if I've remembered anything, honestly.
Grace is doing well. What are you? Yesterday I was in 8th place. I think you were in 6th place. That's pretty good.
How am I in 6th? Okay, then people in our league, because like I'm not doing well. I mean, to be like, I'm just not. I'm getting a lot wrong.
We're doing okay. I don't know how like rookie leagues are supposed to perform. We're in the rookie league because we're brand new. So I think everybody in our league is their first season playing Learned League. So I think everyone is new. Maybe they haven't, they don't know how to play perfectly yet. Everyone's still trying to figure it out. But Grace and I are kind of hanging up at the top in the top 10. We're out of like 26 or 28 people in our league. So I think that's pretty good. Constantly surprised at how high I am in the rankings, considering how poorly I'm doing overall.
I know. I don't know. I also don't. I never understand like the little things that they put after that tell you like how much you've won.
Oh, yeah. Every time it takes me 5 minutes to digest the information of like how many points I got versus the other person, and then I forget it, and the next day I'm like, wait, how does this work again? I can't remember. Anyway, but speaking of learning fun facts, this is obviously a trivia podcast. We talk about trivia things. We also run a weekly poll. Is it time to go into the Pollapalooza?
It is. I just realized that it was a poll where, we ran multiple things. So now I'm like, oops, forgot to do the math on that.
Oh my God.
I'm doing it now.
If you were on our YouTube, you would have got to watch the last 20, 30 seconds of Grace frantically typing, doing mathematics on the screen. And I love that for her.
This is my problem, is that if I was on regular Excel, I'd have it done in a second. But the fact that I have to use my stupid MacBook numbers, it's like, there's no rhyme or reason to this.
I don't use numbers. You should get Excel for your MacBook.
Okay, I know, but it's like I never use it, so it's no point in paying
Fair.
I never use it on my personal time, that is. I do use it at work all the time. I'm quite good at Excel, actually. So anyways, yes, we asked, so if you remember last week, I did a topic on color categories.
It was so good.
Naming of colors, how different languages, some have 3 categories, some have 11. Well, I asked, what's your favorite color? But of course, there's more than 4. So options were, I tried to stick with like the general color categories in English. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, black, white. I didn't include like brown and whatever because whose favorite color is brown? I mean, maybe someone is, but
maybe.
Okay.
If it is, write to us. And we apologize.
The number one choice, because if you remember, the most popular favorite color in America is blue across all genders. Well, on our poll, the most popular color was green with 40% of the vote.
That's not shocking to me. Green is such a perfect, beautiful, never been seen before, never been done before color.
I've always loved green. And any form of green. I mean, I can't think of a green that I don't like. Like even the, ugly greens or whatever.
Yeah.
I love them.
I'll take a green over any color any day. Always been green. I've always been forest green. What about you?
I don't know. I mean, it depends. I love like jewel tones, like emerald, like when it comes to like decorating or clothing. Yeah. But I also really love like a chartreuse green. I would love to have that chartreuse Subaru that kind of is like baby puke green.
Yep. Yes.
My dream.
I've recently come into like the more polarizing greens in my late age. But I was definitely more of an olive forest green girl when I was younger.
Oh, the hold that army green had on me in college.
I mean, I think on every 20-something millennial, with that damn army green coat that everybody had.
Yep. Every time I like crochet, like I'm picking yarn to crochet, I'm like, well, should I just do it in greens? Like I know that I'll wear green or black. Those are like my 2 colors. But okay, but second place was blue. So third place was purple, and that
Not
actually
surprising.
does like the in the US, blue is the most popular, and then purple is second most popular amongst women, and green is the second most popular around amongst men. So blue, green, and purple are the most popular colors. I love green and purple together. I feel like that's an alternative Halloween color if you don't want to do the traditional orange and black. But I guess if you really want to be different, you shouldn't choose any of those 3 as your favorite colors because it's most popular. As far as the next colors, in 4th place, there was a tie between orange and yellow. I feel like orange is the good favorite color. It's different.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Matt's
last
favorite
place
color, as you know, is yellow.
is yellow.
Everything is yellow. Yeah.
I don't like yellow, I have to say. There's something about it. I've never liked it. I think I don't look good in yellow either is my issue.
I personally don't like most shades of yellow, especially as clothing option, because I think it just washes me out, you know?
I like a mustard.
But like, yes, like a mustard, like kind of those deeper, more, I don't know, the yellows that kind of go with like an army green, you know? Like this is more of a gold, but you know, it's not as close to but this yellow of my rag on my Peloton. If you're watching YouTube, you'd see, but as I know,
well, Alex claims her favorite color is gold. I'm like, oh my god.
Oh my god.
She's like, sometimes I just say yellow because I don't want to say gold. I'm like, okay.
Isn't it hilarious that Matt and Alex's color?
They're both Aries.
That's just, what is wrong with these Aries? I'll tell you what.
She claims her favorite color is gold, but she barely owns anything that's yellow or gold. Whereas I say my favorite color is green, and I have the evidence to back that up. Okay,
you're a true fan.
Everything I own is green, basically, if I have the option, or black. Okay, and then last place was red. No one voted for black or white, which I kind of like. I love black, but is black a color? I don't know.
I know. Maybe everybody who was voting was like, black isn't a color, and so they didn't vote for it, even though they like it.
Yeah.
I think you and I went through a big like black all the time phase of like wearing. Especially me, I definitely wore only black clothes. I've been recently trying to like branch out and wear more colors, and I tend to go directly to green, orange, or pink as my colors now.
Yeah, I do green, orange, or red, or black. But I love black. There's something classic about a black.
It's classic.
And a lot of times, if I have to get something like my iPad cover, my water bottle, black.
Keep it
Can't
simple,
go wrong.
Keep it safe. Yeah.
Anyways, that's us. So
All
that's
right.
colors.
Colors. So then I think it's time for us to head over to the hits and the shits. I'm doing something different with my hits and shits today, folks. Let's see if it's working. Because, well, not different. If you know me, and Grace knows, if you see my notes for my podcast, I would write out each crossword and bullet point all of the hits and shits and write it out. It takes so much GD time, so I'm trying to condense the amount of time that I take putting together my hits and shits. So I just did screen grabs of the puzzles and highlighted the things.
That's what I've been doing forever on my iPad. That's why I have my little iPad out here.
So yeah, I'm that's what I mean by I'm trying something new. I'm just giving it a shot. We'll see if it works. If you don't mind, I'm going to start us off with the February 27th, New Yorker by Natan Last. 22 across. Earn a beep, and the answer is cuss. I just thought it was a cute clue.
Yeah.
But did you say cuss or curse?
Curse. Curse.
Same.
Never said cuss. Cuss seems so dorky to me. I don't know.
Does.
I know it's just a regional thing, but
it feels very southern in a way. I don't know. And
No,
the first time I ever heard someone say
cussed.
cuss was in college, and I was like, what are you saying right now?
What the are you talking
What
about?
in the goddamn? Okay. 49 across. Grant in filmmaking, ? And the answer was Cary Grant.
I was going to guess Hugh Grant.
Oh, great. It was 4 letters, so you would have put it in, I think. You might have tried it. Very good. What else do I got here? Oh, 28 down. Hearty bong rips. And the answer is, God, this is why it's stressful to me. I'm like, okay. Oh no, hearty bong hits. And the answer was rips. I just thought that was funny. There's also some funny TikToks that I saw recently about taking a massive bong rip and making you start crying because it's so. Anyway, I'll have to share it with you. It's hilarious. And then 31 down. I'd never heard this before, but it makes sense, and I'm here for using this term. Quote, Blue Bloods and Major Crimes to many. And those are 2 television shows. So the answer, 31 down, is Copaganda.
Oh, yeah. Wait, that was in the New York Times?
That was, this is New Yorker.
New Yorker,
I said New York Times,
No,
I'm sorry.
no, you said New Yorker. Okay.
Yeah, that is in the New Yorker, which you would see the New Yorker. I don't know if you'd see Copaganda in the New York
definitely
Times. Not. And then last one
Paw
is,
Patrol.
This is for you, Grace. Exactly, Paw Patrol. 40 down, piece of footwear for a clown, maybe. And the answer was red shoe. So
amazing.
for your clown core dreams, potentially. That's all I got for that.
I'll talk about the Tuesday New York Times by Gia Bosco. Well, I was going to tell you to do this. I feel like we've had this potentially as a topic, if you ever want to as a topic, but 12 Down, the K of K-pop.
Ah, Korean.
Very
nice.
But I was like, maybe that'd be too big of a topic to cover. Okay, 40 Down. This is a topic that I did, and I was excited that I knew this. Ford flop of the 1950s was the Edsel.
Which is such an interesting topic. And yeah.
People didn't like it because they thought the grill looked like a vagina. I forget what's like the word for phallic the other way around.
I forget.
Vaginal? I don't know.
Vagic.
Anyways, vulvic.
Vulvic? I don't know.
I feel like we've had this exact conversation on that topic, actually.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And we came to the same conclusion.
We are pretty, the same exact people we were 5 years ago or 3 years ago.
Yes, of course. Okay, this one, 59 Down, the clue was knucklehead, and the answer was simp, which I understand simp to be like simpleton, but I feel like the term simp has evolved a bit, because today simp is like someone who is like, I don't even know how to define it without using it, is like a simp for their significant other. You know, you basically like will do anything for your significant other.
And people, I think, have started to use it like as a way to talk negatively about the people that would do anything for their partner. But these so-called simps have kind of reclaimed it and like, yeah, I'm a simp for my partner for sure. Like, what's wrong with being a simp for your partner?
Nothing at all.
We all want a partner that's a simp. Let's just say that. Basically, it's like you mean like you are just like,
you'd literally do anything.
So dedicated, like everything. You'll do anything for them. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. But anyways, it made me laugh. I was like, I wonder if one day the New York Times will clue it like that.
Yeah.
And then this one stumped me. I was like, what the heck? 32 Down, name that's practically synonymous with synonyms. It's Roget or Roget, there's like a Roget's thesaurus, same like Webster's dictionary, but I didn't know that was his name. So, her name. That's New York Times.
Very nice. I'm taking us back to the New Yorker, the March 2nd by Robin Weintraub. 29 Across was fun. Like the voice of someone who says, quote, I have a code, end quote, question mark. And the answer was nasal. Like if they have a cold.
Oh.
But they're nasally, and so they say code instead of cold. I thought I was like, oh my God, that's so cute. This was fun too. 48 Across, donuts kept in case of emergency.
Life
spare tire, but nice. You were on that. You had the right thought of the trick there. And then 9 Down. Sure, you've heard the same from me before, but now you better take me seriously. End quote. Was I mean it this time. And speaking of Roget, Roget showed up in this puzzle too. 10 Down, synonym supplier since 1852. Roget thesaurus. What the heck?
I had something else weird like that happen. In a New Yorker, the New Yorker Wednesday one by Amy Lucido, 48 Down was Egyptian blank cat breed, and the answer was Mau, M-A-U. And then I did another puzzle that Eric Agard had tweeted about on Extra. By Ada Nicole. That's like an independent puzzle, and they also clued it was like Egyptian cat breed, like named after a sound a cat might make. It was Mau again. It's like I'd never seen that before. Now it's twice in 1 week.
It's crazy. And the Roget one, I wonder if there was like an anniversary recently, or I don't know. Like they've been around.
No, because a lot of times they write these puzzles like way ahead of time.
It's true. But sometimes these things happen. But my last one from this puzzle, the Thursday Robin Weintraub from New Yorker, is 24 Down, soft drink with a trademarked bottle design, and the answer is Coke, of course. We talked a little bit about the Coke bottle design for cars last week, and now I just found out that bottle was trademarked. I didn't realize it was, but it makes sense that it was. So we're Coca-Cola girls on this podcast.
We are. We love a Coke. I did the Sunday WAPO by Evan Bernholz, February 26th.
Nice.
This one, 106 across. It means nothing, yet it's said to make the world go round. And the answer was love. And I was like, is Evan okay? But then I realized that it's like in tennis. Love is like 101 down, Twilight actor Pattinson.
Robert
Pattinson.
We got to get Taylor Lautner in there.
Yeah.
Our next goal is to talk Taylor Lautner up so much that we start seeing Taylor Lautner in the puzzles.
One day. Team Jacob head or something. Okay. 42 across, one with a mobile phone number ? But mobile was capitalized. And the answer was Alabaman.
Mobile,
Alabama. That's all I got from that one.
Cool. The Wednesday, March 1st, Amy Lucido, similar to how we learned about sea lining last week, one across, blank sniping, baiting someone with an incessant, irresistibly interesting problem, as coined in the webcomic XKCD. And the answer was nerd. So nerd sniping is, blank sniping, baiting someone with irresistibly interesting problem, blah, blah, blah. And the answer was nerd sniping. I didn't realize that there was a term for that. And
no.
I thought it was interesting. I love learning something new.
Also,
Also,
what was sea lining? I've already forgotten.
Sea lining is when you're like really like insistently like questioning, like, no, I don't know anything. I don't know much about this. I'm just asking questions. I'm just trying to understand.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Like that. Also from this Amy Lucido puzzle, I really have to refrain myself from circling every single thing, so I'm only going to give you two.
I know. She has good ones.
33 across, subreddit where posters ask whether they acted appropriately in a given situation, and the subreddit is called Am I the Asshole? And the answer usually is yes, you are the asshole.
I feel like a lot of this, I don't know, I don't trust Reddit. I feel like so many posts are just people trolling.
Oh, for sure. That's something.
Or like weird like sexual things. Like some of the stuff they ask, I'm like, this is like you're like getting off on this. I don't know.
Right. It's true. I trust more the ones that you see on podcasts where people like write in, you know?
Yeah.
But similar vibes sometimes. Like some of the stories that people talk about on podcasts, when it's like, am I the asshole? And then they read this insane story. It's like, how can you not think that you're the asshole? Like, you must be trolling right now.
Am I an asshole? I murdered someone.
Right. It's like, maybe you're a psychopath. Do you have anything else?
I have some for that puzzle.
Oh, do it. Yeah.
28 across, put some groceries away, ? And the answer was 8.
Nice.
24 down, franchise from which the series Snooki and JWoww was spun off, Jersey Shore.
Of course.
That's all I have. Well, you mentioned other ones that I had that I liked too.
Cool. That's all I have. I did like the theme from the Thursday, March 2nd, New York Times by Malika Honda. The theme was stem cells. Essentially, like, there was this rebus with the words stem inside, a box, and that box was like a cell,
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was interesting. And so the word stem was in a bunch of different clues, and the clues were fun. Yeah, I'd recommend doing that puzzle. It's a good one.
I don't know if I did that one. I did do that independent crossword by Ada Nicole on March 1st.
Nice.
And I think the website, it was Extra Magazine, but just Extra Magazine. 39 across, tapping on a glass may alert people to a toast.
Oh, nice.
36 down, women known to get down with some Chardonnay say. And the answer was wine mom. 27 down, get over a breakup faster, jokingly. And the answer is win.
Nice.
7 down, leaks of Glee. And it's Nene Leakes. I didn't know Nene Leakes was on Glee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So those are just a couple. It was fun. So
we got to get, I feel like we stopped doing independent crosswords because it was harder for us. Like, neither of us have printers, and a lot of them, like, I don't know. We were doing a lot of them together. And so when we went,
I like to just do it in the app, but Eric posted about this, so I just clicked it on my phone and did it on my phone. It was fun.
Cute.
Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, Eric. We'll try and do more independent crosswords. We will. But I think now it's time to flip the coin.
Flip it.
All right, I'm flipping the coin now.
My posture's horrible.
Heads. Yet again. I'm sorry. Trust me, I don't want to go first.
She claims that she flips a coin every time, but I have no way to... She flips a digital coin, so I have no way to verify.
It's true. I do flip it, I promise. So my topic comes from the Thursday, March 2nd New York Times by Malika Honda. 11 down. Speech that ends sentences with rising tones.
Valley Girl?
That's a great guess. The answer is uptalk, which is essentially the same as like the Valley Girl accent. So yeah, I'm talking about uptalk today. I'm not just talking about uptalk. I'm also talking about vocal fry, which I'm sure Grace is well aware of what both of these things are. And if you're not, I think it's a really apt topic to kind of kick off our Women's History Month, specifically because it's a topic that is prevalent in a lot of like women's, circles, feminist circles, and it's something that women get disparaged a lot for. So why not talk about it and unpack a little bit why this happens and so on and so forth. So
let's do it.
Let's do it. There are truly so many amazing resources out there. Like, my resource list is just endlessly long, and I could have added a lot more, and I had to basically tell myself, like, stop researching this because you can't include it all. So if you're interested in learning more, I literally have an insane amount of resources that I can provide to you. But one particular resource was the Science Friday podcast called Science Diction episode featuring Lisa Davidson. The episode was called Vocal Fry, Why I'm Not Getting a Voice Coach. And Lisa Davidson is the chair and head of linguistics at NYU, and she appeared in almost every single source that I, found and used. And she's awesome, obviously, just, talking about vocal fry and all these things. But so, yes, that's just one of many sources that I used. So let's get into it. What is uptalk? So the academic term for uptalk is high rising terminal, or HRT, but it's known more casually as upspeaker uptalk. I'm just going to read you the quick definition from Wikipedia. Uptalk is a feature of some variants of English where declarative sentences can end with a rising pitch similar to that typically found in a yes or no question. Uptalk has been claimed to be especially common among younger speakers and women. That's uptalk. So now what about vocal fry? Vocal fry is a way of speaking in which the voice is very low-pitched and has the characteristic of rough or creaky sounding. And this is a quote from Lisa Davidson, professor and chair of linguistics at NYU. She calls it creaky phonation. Quote, when someone uses creaky phonation, they are changing the nature of their vocal folds. So normally we have a sort of fluid opening and closing that is about an equal amount of time that it's closed versus when it's open. But during vocal fry or creaky phonation, it's closed for longer than it is open, and this gives rise to this low-pitched, sort of raspy quality. So what do these sound like? You can just, YouTube these or watch the Kardashians, and you will see both uptalk and creaky voice / vocal fry. I'm sure that I and Grace and I have done it multiple times already through the recording of this podcast, but I'll give you a couple examples. Well, just so if uptalk would be like, so I'm going to the store, I want to grab bread, then I'm going to go to Starbucks. It's kind of like that. And then vocal fry is more like, so like I was like at the store and I got like a Starbucks there and it was like so good, and
I love it.
Yeah, I love it too, right?
I love being a woman.
I love being a woman. Exactly. So those are examples of uptalk and vocal fry. We're going to talk first about uptalk, and then we're going to get into vocal fry. So people talk about the origins of uptalking being the SoCal Valley Girl culture of the 80s and 90s. Like, people think that's where it started. But uptalk is a speech pattern with a longer history than that. One of the first instances of like recorded like literature or academic writing about uptalk comes from 1975 by linguist Robin Lakoff, who wrote, quote, there is a peculiar sentence pattern which has the form of a declarative answer to a question and is used as such, but has the rising inflection typical of a yes-no question. And then some other linguists hypothesize that uptalk could actually date as far back as the 9th century. Mark Lieberman, a linguist professor at the University of Pennsylvania, says, quote, "It has been suggested that this distribution of rising inflection in sentences in northern England, Scotland, and Northern Ireland probably has something to do with the Scandinavian influence there." Lieberman cites a handbook on language from 1870s, in which the author writes, quote, "In Scotch, the rising tone is often employed monotonously, not only in questions, but also in answers and statements of fact." And also Scandinavian countries, uptalk and vocal fry is a huge element of their language. And linguists believe that Scandinavian languages kind of influenced Germanic languages, which is where English comes from. So, unfortunately, I don't think the Valley Girls invented uptalk and vocal fry. So one of the problems with tracing the rise of any speech pattern is that the point that people notice it is often after it has begun, right? So we don't fully recognize it, but our manner of speech is constantly changing based on how those around us speak. More from Lieberman. He says that uptalk is something that's always been in our manner of speech, just not necessarily as pronounced today. Quote, "In all variants of English, there are a set of circumstances in which rising patterns are used, not in polar questions, that is, yes or no questions. Uptalk has always been available just below the surface because there are circumstances in which speakers not thought to be uptalkers are uptalking, essentially. So it's always been there. There are moments in English where even if you're not a Valley Girl or Kim Kardashian, you potentially uptalk without realizing that you're doing it." And as a speech pattern, it's something that's been observed not only in American girls, but in many different cultures and countries, Scandinavian, all the way down to Australia, Japan. But the term uptalk wasn't coined until 1993. So why do people use uptalk? There's a ton of different reasons linguists believe that uptalk is used. Nothing is conclusive. These are just kind of all pontifications, theories. Some linguists guess or say that uptalk is used by uncertain speakers hoping to win their audience over. So phrasing every sentence, no matter how declarative, more like a question. It's like a way to subconsciously ask the listener to assure the speaker, which is interesting. That's what Robin Lakoff first noticed in 1975. So she thought that it was a way to help insecure speakers feel more confident. Lieberman, however, suggests that uptalk is a way to assert dominance. So he pointed to a study from 2005, which highlighted speakers in dominant positions, like the chair of a meeting or an academic supervisor, used uptalk between 3 and 7 times more often than the people that they were talking to. And so then that kind of falls in line with another thing that I found. A journalist, S.I. Rosenbaum, tweeted, quote, "Uptalk doesn't reflect uncertainty. It's a demand that the listener evince understanding." Rosenbaum noted that American Sign Language, ASL, Grace did a topic on this, also has a device that accomplishes this goal. Rosenbaum says, in ASL, statements are rendered topical by a facial expression that can also mean a yes or no question. That is, the language includes prompts for the listener to signify that they're engaging with the speaker, not a lack of assertiveness. So there are patterns in other languages that you can essentially add a flail of what you might do for a yes or no question, but you can add it onto a declarative sentence to assure yourself that you're being listened to, which I think is interesting, which is a lot of people think that that's kind of what uptalk is for. Matt actually pointed out that he saw TikTok. He couldn't find it, so I can't fully say this is verifiable. But the accent used in Wayne's World, it's Canadian, but there's a version of it's kind of uptalky at the end of every sentence.
Yeah,
and it's a way to suggest I'm not finished speaking yet, so keep listening. Even though it's a declarative sentence, going up at the end of the sentence is to signify I'm continuing my speech, so to keep listening. And it only drops, the uptalk drops when you're finished, when you're done, and the next person can speak, which I think is kind of interesting. So now let's talk about vocal fry. So pretty much before 2011, no one was talking about vocal fry, which I think is interesting. But then in December 2011, a study came out of Long Island University studying 34 college students, all women. The study found that about 2/3 of these women used vocal fry. This was not the first study about vocal fry by a long shot, but something about this timing. Maybe it was the fact that Britney Spears was still kind of popular. Kesha was huge at the time. The Keeping Up the Kardashians was in its 4th season. But something about the timing of this release of this study, plus everything else that was going on socially in the United States, but it put vocal fry on the map and it put it on the American mind. When people started realizing it, they started hating it. And like this study, the hate was pointed at women only. They were disparaged, victimized, made to feel unintelligent, you name it, described as annoying. I'm doing vocal fry right now without even, trying. People thought it was women trying to keep up with trends or be trendy and trying to sound like Britney, Kesha, Kim K. But the kicker is that the study didn't look at men, even though men also use vocal fry. So over the next few years, vocal fry sort of cemented itself as this horribly annoying thing that most young women do, and people wanted a solution. Everyone wanted to fix young women and their vocal fry. How could we possibly be respected in our careers if we used vocal fry? Then in 2015, an episode of, I don't even know if this is a podcast or like a TV show, but Fresh Air was released. And on the episode, a speech pathologist claimed that not only is vocal fry annoying and needing to be fixed, but it's also bad for your vocal cords, fatiguing and straining and hurting them. And this is when the linguists were like, all right, enough, we're done. We're done with you idiots talking and not knowing anything about vocal fry. And so they decided to step in. And Lisa Davidson was so mad when she listened to this episode of, Fresh Air. So she joined Twitter to send a letter to Fresh Air specifically. She wrote a letter to them correcting that vocal fry does not hurt vocal cords and that people criticizing vocal fry actually just hate how women speak. Vocal fry is a common characteristic of many languages, Danish, for instance, and also in many Southeast Asian languages and indigenous languages in Latin America, vocal fry is a feature. In some languages, adding even the smallest bit of fry may change the whole meaning of a word. But something about the timing of this study and like the cultural timing of like Britney and Kim K, like it was just an incredible time for people to be more vocal about how they just hated women speaking. So where does vocal fry come from? It's been around longer than you think, longer than Kim Kardashian. An early reference to vocal fry was actually in a study by linguists in the 60s describing vocal fry as a speech pattern of upper-class British men. And so the podcast, yes, the podcast I was listening to played a clip of Benedict Cumberbatch speaking. And it was like one long vocal fry. But nobody's out here criticizing Benedict Cumberbatch and being like, he needs a vocal coach to get rid of the vocal fry. So also like part of this timing of like men using vocal fry in the UK, it was always more common for men to use vocal fry, specifically upper class men, and definitely more common than women, 10 times more common, in fact, which a study found in the 80s. It was 10 times more common for men to use vocal fry than women in the UK. But here's the rub. According to Lisa Davidson and many other linguists and many years of linguistic research, just about every change you see in language is found in women first, usually young women. This is widely accepted by linguists and sociologists. Young women tend to be ahead of the curve when it comes to language. Some examples. Women were the first to transition from using ye to you, and also from hath to has. That's just like an example from like 17th century or the 1700s. So why do people hate vocal fry so much, and by extension, uptalk? There's some research into why and how we use vocal fry in English, but most is inconclusive currently. Maybe women use vocal fry when talking about emotional topics, or maybe it's a thing they do when they're bored or when they're trying to project authority. If those are the case, and you hate vocal fry, then you just hate the way women speak when they are emotional, when they are bored, or when they are asserting power. Okay? So that means you just kind of just don't like when women speak, right? And if it's not that, then sorry to say, it's just sexism. From the Science Friday podcast, when we criticize the way women's voices sounds and not what they are saying, it shows that on some level we just don't like who they are, their age, their class, their gender, their race. criticizing vocal fry is like criticizing an accent. It's a cheap shot. When we say, I can't tolerate the sound of vocal fry, it sounds like I can't tolerate the sound of young women talking. If there's one rule of language, is it changes, okay? And women are at the forefront of it. And I feel like if we're using vocal fry and we're using uptalk,
that's the future.
It's the future, baby. Get with it. The podcast that I listened to started with a voicemail from an angry male listener being like, this podcast was amazing. I feel like I learned a lot and I'd be more ready to listen if the host didn't sound so grating and so annoying with her vocal fry and just on and on and on and on and like criticizing the way she sounded, her intelligence, the whole spiel. And it's like
don't listen then.
Then don't listen. And also, it's hilarious. They found he was using vocal fry in the voicemail.
Well, when you were talking about like elite British men, I thought of House, like the show with, I don't remember his name now, the dad from Stuart Little. Yeah. I know he's doing an American accent in the show, but he definitely has vocal fry, and his character is seen as like, you know, people take that character so seriously. He's like a genius.
Right, of course. But something about women using speech patterns, it's not the speech patterns that are the problem, it's the women that are the problem.
Yeah. Well, I also think something with uptalk and saying like and is also a way of talking to someone in a very non-aggressive way sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
Just like I did there, where you're like, you know, you're not being like, I think this is true. You're like, well, maybe it's like the dog wants to go outside. I guess that is kind of a question. But anyways, I'm just saying that I think.
But it's not a question, right? It's like, but the way you phrased it, it
sounds
kind
like a
of
question,
made it sound like a question. Which there was some research on that as well as like why people might use uptalk. They use uptalk to make declarative sentences questions to seem less aggressive.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, exactly what you're saying. Yeah. There's research about that.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I feel like, you know, I'll end with saying that to start off my research, I'll type like, what is this? Or what is the history of this? So I typed in like, what is uptalk? What is vocal fry into Google? The first 2 pages of the what is uptalk search results were like pages and pages of like how to correct uptalk. Uptalk is killing your career. There is a masterclass, you know, masterclass.com. There is a masterclass 4-part series about how to correct your uptalk.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, this is crazy. Why? Like, yeah, I don't know. People who think that it sounds unprofessional, it's like a red flag to me. And there are some movements now to make discrimination against tonation like a thing in HR departments. So I thought it was interesting because a lot of people might not get a job, women specifically, because they uptalk, even if they're like a fucking genius.
I hate stuff like that. That's like baseless things about what's considered professional. Same with like professional dress code, especially when you have a job where you're not even like seeing clients, but you have to wear like business casual. It's like, why? Can't people just be judged on what they do for their job and what their work is, not all these random little things that we say like, no, this is professional? Because then there's people who may appear professional, but then they're horrible at their actual jobs. But they like, you know, they fit into the corporate culture perfectly.
Exactly.
So they just stay forever. And then there's other people like picking up the slack.
Yeah. There's so much to be said about that. It's the same with like, you know, in academics, like what is correct English to write with versus what is not correct English to write with. If you've listened to the You're Wrong About Ebonics episode, you should. If you haven't, you should. But I don't know. There's just like some greater power made the rules and we all just stick to it.
Yeah.
For what? For what reason? For what reason? To discriminate against other people? Who knows? That's what it feels like.
Well,
at the end of the day.
Look down.
Exactly. Anyway, so that's uptalk.
With a little Les Mis sprinkled in, but yes, if Les Mis taught us anything, so you should never look down on people.
It's true.
Unless you're looking down on the upper echelons, then that's fine. Well, my topic is pretty different from yours.
Okay. I had a thought of like what your topic might be, and so I didn't put it in my hits and shits.
Let's see. It's from the March 1st New Yorker by Amy Lucido, 49 across. Any of several graphic horror films that sparked a moral panic in the UK in the 80s, colloquially. Ooh, I have a hard time saying. That's a word that I have a hard time saying. Like, I can't. Peculiar. I've gotten a lot better. I used to be really bad at saying that word.
I also struggle with that colloquially.
It's the Q. Sometimes the Q sounds get me.
Yeah.
Anyways, the answer is video nasty. So, I'm doing my topic on video nasties. It's a British topic, so
I absolutely thought you might do this topic, so I did do my heats in my shits.
Well, like the clue said, video nasty was an era of British censorship against horror movies on VHS that took place in the 1980s. So I got a lot of my info from an article on internationalpolicydigest.com called A Look Back at the UK's Video Nasty Controversy in the 1980s by Will Mann. So let's travel back to 1980s UK. It was Margaret Thatcher's United Kingdom. Ugh. VHS tapes were becoming readily available, making home viewing possible. And you can see how this hurt the drive-in movie theater industry in episode 142, the blue, pink, and green screen, where I talk about how that's why the drive-in movies kind of ended in the 80s, because the whole point of drive-in movies was to have a comfortable place to watch movies. But then when you can get at-home VHSs, well, you could stay in the comfort of your own home.
I love that. It was like a very natural pitch there. Very good. Very good.
At the time, bigger distributors were hesitant to get into the VHS game because they were worried about piracy. They were like, how are we going to make these movies like onto VHS? People will just steal them. How will we make any money? So there was a lot of unregulated and uncensored movies that hit the market. There was a huge loophole in the British home video release market where movies didn't have to go under any type of rating criteria. So basically all these like independent horror movies were made and released straight to VHS, and there was no one like rating them, nothing. But this kind of led to a gray market instead of a black market horror film distribution system.
Ooh.
But this was also a very conservative time in the UK. Margaret Thatcher was the Prime Minister, after all. And this quickly started a moral panic around these movies and whether or not children had access to them, of course. In comes Mary Whitehouse. So Mary Whitehouse was a socially conservative activist who founded the National Viewers and Listeners Association. She used the association to criticize the BBC on what she perceived to be a lack of accountability and excessive use of bad language and portrayals of sex and violence in its programs. She was most well known for her criticism of Doctor Who. She criticized every episode. She said of Doctor Who episodes, quote, that they, quote, contain some of the sickest and most horrific material seen on children's television. She actually got them to change a cliffhanger ending where the Doctor appears to be drowning in the cliffhanger. I don't know. Apparently they took that out or whatever.
Aye.
In response, Philip Hinchcliffe, the producer of Doctor Who at the time, said, quote, I always felt that Mary Whitehouse thought of Doctor Who as a children's program for little children, and it wasn't. So she was really coming at the show from the wrong starting point. She, for some reason, felt like little kids were watching every show. Even shows that were made for an older audience. She once made, and this is kind of just a funny story, she once made an appearance on a British talk show and confused playwright Dennis Potter with a character from one of his plays, and she said on air about Dennis Potter, quote, his mother had committed adultery with a strange man, and that the shock of witnessing this had caused her son to be afflicted with psoriatic anthropathy, which he did have that in real life, but that's not. She is confusing him with a character from one of his plays called The Singing Detective. But she made that claim that his mom had, the reason why he had that affliction was because his mom had committed adultery and he caught him. But Dennis's mom then sued the BBC and the talk show. She won substantial damages. And then Whitehouse later said that she had a blackout at the interview halfway point and claimed her comments were not intentional. And then to give some context about The Singing Detective, which was the show that she was talking about, that Mary was talking about. It was a serial drama that aired on the BBC, and it was also a musical. It won a Peabody Award in 1989, and it ranks 20th on the British Films Institute's list of the 100 greatest British television programs, as voted by industry professionals in 2000.
That's hilarious.
So this is a quote from Michael Grade, the CEO of Channel 4 in the UK, about Mary. She never sees things in context. She will see something in an exploitation video and condemn it in the same breath as she will condemn a Dennis Potter classic. I respect her fortitude in fighting the battles over the years, trying to get her point of view across, but it is a point of view which would have totally destroyed British television if it had become the set of values by which we had commissioned programs.
Kind of like what's happening here in the United States of the US of A, you know? If you give somebody that has like a couple of bonkers thoughts a platform to speak, they might get a lot of people following them and also having those same bonkers thoughts. It's just,
well, yeah.
Like banning books, for instance. Rings a bell, contemporary.
Yes. So it was Mary and her organization that helped coin the term video nasty and drove the campaign to get the videos banned. So if a movie was deemed to be unfit, the government decided that the film's producers, distributors, and retailers could be prosecuted. There were all these, like, people started complaining about all these, like, you know, individual movies. So local governments, like, to act fast, they summoned what they called snatch squads, which they would go to local video shops to root out, like, suspected video nasties. The most notorious place where this happened, where there was, like, police raids of video shops, was in Manchester, because the head of the police department was an outspoken, devout Christian. But the raids were extremely disorganized. For example, a copy of the 1982 musical, The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, starring Dolly Parton and Burt Reynolds, was confiscated because officials believed it was a pornographic film.
Oh my God.
So they were just, like, going in. Some movies were taken just based on the cover alone.
Which, again, sounds so familiar to current day United States America. Okay.
Well, it's also dumb. I mean, obviously, I get, like, yeah, things need to be rated. Like, kids shouldn't, there are definitely things that kids should not be watching. But when it comes to adults, it's like, how are you going to tell an adult what they can and can't watch?
No, exactly. Yeah.
What if you want, like, you got to make sure the laws are so that the people making movies aren't, like, making exploitation films or, like, snuff films. That's what you need. But otherwise, if no one's getting hurt.
Right. And I also feel like the whole, like, you know, this organization and, like, grabbing, like, the Dolly Parton film, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It's like, you need to know what it is you're condemning before you actually condemn it. You know what I mean?
People said Mary Whitehouse didn't watch any of these videos, of course. Or, like, didn't watch any movies on video nasties. But the Video Retailers Association was like, you can't just keep coming in here and, like, taking movies that, like, you just think look bad. So you need to give us an official list of movies so that we can, like, turn them over, whatever. So a list of 72 movies was produced. This is the Video Nasties list.
Oh my God.
They were ranked in 3 sections. So there was section 1, the highest, dubbed prosecuted films. These were considered the most obscene and which made sellers and distributors liable for criminal charges. Damn. These included films like, and by the way, a lot of these films, barely any of them were British. They were all American or Italian. A lot of Italian films. Okay, these include Lucio Fulci's Zombie 2 from 1979, a low-budget exploitative movie from Italy that, as the title suggests, features zombies, including one that famously fights a shark. Other titles include Cannibal Holocaust, I Spit on Your Grave, A Bay of Blood, Night of the Bloody Apes, Gestapo's Last Orgy. There was a lot of, like, weird Nazi, like, horror movies at the time. And Flesh for Frankenstein, which was released in the US as Andy Warhol's Frankenstein, as he was one of the producers.
Hilarious.
I didn't realize that he, like, produced movies. I don't know. I guess I don't know that much about Andy Warhol, but yeah, he has a Frankenstein movie that's a section 1 video nasty.
Wow. Prosecuted film.
Section 2 was non-prosecuted film, so this meant that distributors or sellers could not be prosecuted for them, but they were still banned. The most famous movie on the second tier was Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead from 1981. This film's success not only set Raimi on the path of writing and directing future installments in Evil Dead and other horror movies like Drag Me to Hell, but also mainstream blockbusters like Doctor Strange and the 3 Spider-Man movies. Section 2 also includes Andrzejowski's 1981 psychological horror film Possession. The film premiered at the Cannes Film Festival, where it was nominated for the prestigious Palme d'Or, or the highest prize awarded at the festival, and the main actress also won an award for Best Actress. I mention this to say that, like, yeah, these movies, some of these movies are, like, critically acclaimed, or, like, classics, you know?
Yeah, Possession is, like, a classic art house, critically acclaimed film. So it's that's interesting.
Okay. Section 3 was just a supplemental list to the 2 official previous sections. Distributors and sellers couldn't be prosecuted for these titles, but they were liable to be seized, confiscated, and eventually destroyed. Section 3 includes the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, George Romero's Night of the Living Dead, which is considered so significant stateside that it was eventually added to the prestigious National Film Registry.
That's so funny.
Romero's 1978 sequel, Dawn of the Dead, was also included.
Mm-hmm.
John Carpenter's The Thing, which celebrated, well, I don't know when this article was written, but it is nowadays considered a milestone in sci-fi horror. It was nevertheless added to the list.
Oh my God.
Other famous titles include Don Coscarelli's Phantasm, Wes Craven's The Hill Have Eyes, the blaxploitation movies Foxy Brown, starring Pam Grier, and even the first 2 Friday the 13th movies, which we talked a little bit about slasher films. I'll get to that later. The video nasty moral uproar quieted down a bit in 1984 with the Video Recordings Act of 1984. So basically this act made the British Board of Film Classification responsible for the certification of all movies distributed in the UK, both theatrically and on home video. All video releases had to comply, and those that were released before the act's passing had to be resubmitted for classification. This allowed many, but not all, of the video nasty titles to eventually find release. Some of them had to have like minor cuts, and some had substantial cuts. But you can also find eventually uncut versions were also released. So, what are some other movies that made the list and like a little bit about them? Cannibal Holocaust is an Italian found footage film. It's one of the like first found footage horror films about journalists investigating an isolated group of cannibals. Basically, as the movie suggests. But this movie is famous because 10 days after the movie's release in Milan, the authorities arrested the director on murder charges because a magazine had implied that they were like, some of these actors certainly had to be killed in filming this because there's no way that this was real. I've actually never seen Cannibal Holocaust. I have a feeling watching it now it'd be very obvious that things were fake. Yeah. But it's also very grainy. I mean, I know that I've seen like clips of it. I know that so maybe it could have looked very real, but they were like, people died during this. So the director was arrested for murder, and he dodged charges by bringing the actors to court.
Hello.
There they are. They're alive.
Do you know who the director was?
I forget.
I'll look it up. Keep going.
It's an Italian name. Okay. The Last House on the Left, Wes Craven's first film. He would go on to direct Nightmare on Elm Street and Scream. We did a whole episode on Wes Craven, or I did my topic on him, episode 77, The Last Monolith on the Left. The uncut version of Last House on the Left was banned in the UK until 2008.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wild.
Okay. Some movies may have been on the list by accident, like the movie The Funhouse, directed by Tobe Hooper, the guy who directed Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This movie was about teenagers who attend a local carnival only to be hunted by a killer. Many people thought the film was too tame to be considered a video nasty and believed the inclusion of the film on the list was a mistake because there was a different, more shockingly violent horror movie called Last House on Dead End Street, but had previously been released under the title The Funhouse, which is what this carnival movie is released under. So basically, it's very disorganized, this whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to end with a quote from Lee Richmond, who was a writer for the realhorrorshow.co.uk. He said, quote, "What Mary Whitehouse and her cronies didn't factor in was that the moment you ban something, you instantly make people want to acquire it. And this was precisely what happened with the films that made the nasties list. People sought out these films, myself included. Today, most of the films that found themselves on the naughty list have been cleared and released uncut. You can easily find these titles either online or in shelves at the HMV. Must be a British thing. It's a good thing in terms of how censorship laws have relaxed, but it's also rather shitty. I personally loved The Hunt. I loved to track down these obscure, gritty movies, feeling I was somehow sticking 2 fingers up to the man. Fuck the man. I was a rebel, and no musty old bag in a floral dress and national health specs was going to tell me what I could and couldn't watch. Being able to find them at the touch of a button is kind of soulless."
Oh, yeah. God.
But I was reading like articles about it, and someone was like, the movies on this list, like some movies aren't good at all. They're just like, really super low budget, like completely forgettable horror movies, and some are classics, some are award-winning.
Yeah.
But it's like, and they're also not all the same genre.
Right.
But
well,
it's
I
like
saw
this
that,
list puts them all together, like somehow connects them all, like a random list of 72. And it was like, people were saying, you know, they used to go to like basically flea market type things and like swap meets and be like looking through the, you know, seeing if they could find any on the list. And some horror aficionados, like, it's their goal to see every movie on the list.
That's really cool. Well, like, I saw Suspiria is on the Video Nasties list, and that's the one, the dance one that we watched the remake of.
Yeah.
The original's on, and I'm just like, you saw the movie with me. Like, the original's kind of similar. Obviously, it's older, but it's like, most of that is just psychological.
Yeah.
And similar with Possession, it's like, are these true horror films, or are these people just like making guesses about what could be going on in there?
I don't know where they draw the line, but I just feel like to ban them completely, you know, makes no sense. Of course, horror does, like, you know, conversations should be had about type of stuff that's portrayed in horror, especially violence against people that have a lot of violence directed towards them in real life. And like some stuff, like, there's definitely issues for sure. I'm not saying that there aren't issues, but to just completely ban everything, especially like just seemingly willy-nilly, one is just going to make people want to watch them more, which it did with Video Nasties. And also just, I mean, if you're an adult, you should be able to watch whatever,
right?
But I feel like
go ahead.
I think the like regulation should be more on the creation side of the movies, like making sure that, you know, actors aren't being exploited and everything is like up to code versus like regulating what people can watch.
Right. And like I think the problem is like blanket bans without actually knowing what you're banning is what I find frustrating. To like see something like, I don't know, Suspiria on the same list as like some like Cannibal Holocaust or whatever. It doesn't like, I'm just like, it's one thing for you to like think that a child shouldn't be able to watch these horror films. It's another thing to just completely ban all of them, and you haven't even watched them.
Yeah.
And you couldn't even tell me anything about the films that you're banning. It's like, to me, it's a little excessive.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, it was just like, I think it was just a couple years that it was going on in the 80s, because then, you know, they put new regulation in place and it went away. But it's just like this, that happens constantly with stuff like random, like moral uproar about something that is being blown way out of proportion.
And it's interesting to look back at these moments, like in retrospect, right? Like obviously we're experiencing book bannings now in the US, but you think about like when we were younger and they would have like banned book day or whatever, and things like, you know, I don't know, To Kill a Mockingbird or something. And you're like, this book was banned? To be on the wrong side of history sometimes, it's just like, you don't know that you are until years later or whatever. But like to think like some of these films were on a banned list. I mean, I'm sure that Mary, whatever her name is, Whitehall, never thought she was on the wrong side of history. But
no, she'd have a heart attack if she saw Saw. You know, it's like none of those movies are even that bad. I mean, I haven't seen all of them,
or
but
like
I think
Hostel
of like
or something. Like she'd be
like all the Evil Dead movies.
Yeah, I mean, even like anything from Quentin Tarantino, like with like like a lot of gratuitous violence, like things that are critically acclaimed. I'm sure she would be putting on her specs and fighting the good old fight.
I saw something about horror movies that said, like, I don't know if this is true, you know, it's just things that you read online, but it was like people with anxiety like horror movies because it allows you to like kind of go through the feeling of being really anxious and scared, but really knowing that it's going to be fine because it's just a movie. And I wonder, like, is that why I love horror movies so much?
It could
because
be.
because I'm anxious about a lot of things, but like horror movies, it's like I'm allowed to be anxious. Like I'm supposed to be having an anxious reaction to this, and I know that it's like going to be okay.
Yeah.
So
that made me think of, I had something I was just about to say too. Oh, the term video nasties is absolutely amazing.
Well, you have to say it with a British accent to really get it's like, these video nasties.
These video nasties. They're just so nasty. Yeah.
All your kids are watching video nasties on the playground. At the school grounds.
At the library. On a Tuesday afternoon. Sorry.
Another article I read that was like, they did a research study to see like, okay, are kids really watching these? And it was like, it said something like 2/3 of the kids who claimed that they've seen any of these movies were lying, you know? But I think when we were kids, we would like check out scary stories to tell in the dark.
Yeah.
From the school library and like read them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like one of my closest friends when I was younger, like 6th grade to like 8th grade-ish, had older siblings, and they were able to like check out like more R-rated type movies at like Blockbuster or even the library. And so in that way, you're exposed to like things you maybe shouldn't have been exposed to. But if I wasn't friends with them, there's no way I would have seen any of these films. I feel like it's more common for kids to lie on the playground to seem cool than to have actually engaged with the content that they shouldn't be watching. Yeah, I did sneak into a movie once to see Saw. It was the worst day of my life. I was like this, yeah.
Why would you don't even like
It was me and this girl were on like a double date with 2 boys, and they wanted to see Saw. Cool. And the whole time I was like, this is miserable. Why are we here? This is like scary.
Grammatically, it's like, have you seen Saw? Yeah, I saw Saw.
Yeah.
I saw Saw last week.
I saw Saw last week.
Yeah. I don't really like, as much as I like horror movies. It's not that I find them scary. I just am not really that interested. I don't find them interesting. Like the Saw movies, the body horror. I mean, it's like fine, but I'm more into like psychological thrillers type situations.
I don't like any of them, which is funny because Grace has anxiety.
But I force her to watch them.
And yeah, she forces me to, let my anxiety run its course through these. There's some things that I will watch, like Scream is fine, and like The Last House on the Left type.
Scream's coming out. Yes. Takes place. But the trailer looks, I'm like, okay, this is looking scarier than most, but they always make it look like that.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like they always started off being like, this is like a real but then it's like, then you get into it and it doesn't take itself as seriously. So, I don't know.
I feel like the scary movies that I watch, scary in quotes, one of the ones I showed Grace was Suspiria, and it's not really scary. I didn't think. It was more like, what in the goddamn hell is going on?
It's more like disturbing, kind of.
And then they're definitely more art house. And then another one was the one we couldn't even finish, Picnic at Hanging Rock.
Look, I mean, that was like, it was not the right time.
Which is totally fine.
Power to get through it at that point.
Just, that's the difference between the types of scary films that I'm watching versus the ones that Grace is like, hey, you want to watch this? And I'm like, all right, I like hanging out with you. I'll watch this.
All part of my plan.
Yes.
Well, I guess.
Let us know if you've watched any of these video nasties, or if you were in England at the time of the video nasties, and if you were scavenging at flea markets to find the latest release.
And we won't. Sorry, no new episode next week. Sorry, everyone.
Sorry, everyone. We're doing our best here.
But in the meantime, you can talk to us on Twitter at the Good Eve Girls,
or Instagram at the Good Evening Girls,
or TikTok at the Good Eve Girls.
Come on down, say hello, and until next time, not next week, but the week after, we'll see you there. Keep curious as always, and until then, bye.
Bye.